Khamzat Borz Chimaev, one of, if not the hottest prospect the UFC has signed in the past decade. No fighter signed to the UFC has had as fiery of a start to their career as he has. Now, a few years into his career, layoffs, an inconsistent schedule, illnesses, and looking more human in his fights have caused a change in perspective. The man who was once touted by hordes of fans to be a surefire champion in the welterweight division now has some doubts written across him, at least in my eyes. So, why did I write in the title The Rise and Stall of Khamzat Chimaev? I guess I'll have to explain in this video to you watching in the audience that Khamzat Chimaev hasn't exactly fallen since his UFC debut. Certainly not, we can't say that. But he hasn't exactly risen in my eyes either. How did he go from crowds chanting his name alongside his infamous words, smash, smash, smash everyone, to just getting by an older Kamaru Usman on very short notice? Just getting by to the point where some fans, whether you agree or not, were calling for the fight to be a potential draw. Before I get started with this video, hit the like button if you end up enjoying the video, subscribe for more content similar to this, check out some of the other videos I have on my channel, and leave a comment if you have any thoughts on Khamzat Chimaev's potential rise and stall, rise and fall, or if you think he's just continuing to rise. Let me know. Alright, where do you guys want to start from? Should we start from the recent Kamaru Usman fight? To be honest, I can't exactly do that because we need to take a look towards some of Khamzat Chimaev's wild UFC history to get a better understanding of why I think he stalled. So let's go back in time a little bit. Khamzat Chimaev doesn't only have a wild personality and a wild and exciting fighting style, he also has a wild UFC career so far. Okay, so come on over, let's sit inside this roller coaster and let's look at how wild Khamzat's UFC career has been so far. Khamzat Chimaev had one of, if not the hottest start to any prospect in UFC history, with a record-setting back-to-back win within 10 days, fighting John Phillips on July 16th, 2020, and then Reese McKee on July 26th of 2020. Less than 2 months later, less than 2 months later, he fought his third fight on September 19th of 2020 against Gerald Meerschaert and won via 17-second KO. 3 fights in 2 months? Quite a ridiculous start. A month later, on October 23 of 2020, after removing current champion Leon Edwards from the ranking, by the way, what a crazy time that is to look back on, it was announced that Khamzat Chimaev was about to jump the rankings and fight the number 3 ranked at the time and current champion Leon Edwards. It was an astonishing announcement at the time and just as unbelievable to think about now. Everything is moving fast and it looks like Khamzat's about to do the unthinkable. Things are looking up and this is where the roller coaster starts. Unfortunately, or fortunately for Khamzat, the bout fell through multiple times. On December 29th of 2020, Khamzat's manager Ali Abdelaziz stated he had to pull out of the fight. The fight was rebooked, but Khamzat again had to pull out on February 11th of 2021. I hope you're keeping up so far, because this is where things took a completely unexpected turn. On March 1st of 2021, Khamzat Chimaev took to Instagram to announce his retirement from MMA. What? Dana White quickly shot down the retirement rumors and just said he was emotional and frustrated due to the illnesses. He returns from his very short retirement and dominates Li Jingliang. This was really impressive victory. He again jumps the rankings to face Gilbert Burns and wins in a very tough back and forth fight. He then gets hired as a hitman and assassin and gets a very strange fight booking against Nate Diaz. He gets rebooked to fight Kevin Holland and runs through him very easily. Good, impressive win. Now, after the bad weight miss, he moves up to middleweight, which I was pretty excited for at the time when it got announced. But here's the problem. After being sidelined for more than a year, which honestly, a complete waste of a year. A complete waste of a year, let's be honest. He was scheduled to fight Paulo Costa, but because of an injury, Paulo Costa gets removed from the fight, and then he fights Kamaru Usman on very short notice, who I had always thought he'd fight him welterweight, but he fought him at middleweight. Again, he fights him on short notice, and he gets the win, but he just gets by. That was a lot of words at once, I'm not gonna lie. I need a little bit of a break. I will resume recording tomorrow. Yeah, that's a pretty strange career for a guy who's supposed to have a nice upward trajectory, right? Especially for a hype train. Hype trains typically don't have careers the way I just described. And I'm not saying there's not ups and downs for other people who are highly rated prospects, but it usually doesn't have this type of weird trajectory. When you look at people like Conor McGregor, John Jones, Israel Adesanya, Volkanovski, Kamaru Usman, Islam Makhachev, Khabib, Paddy Pimblett. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I don't know why I just keep on roasting Paddy and making fun of him. I apologize. Paddy's great. Now here's what's interesting, and I don't know if this is a hot take, but let's just grant that everyone above fought different level opponents early on, okay? Let's grant that. And let's also grant that not everyone has a berserker style like Khamzat. Even with those factors and things out there, I would say you can definitely still argue that Khamzat's first 4 fights is one of the most enthralling, dominant, and impressive out of everyone stated above. Now, of course, some people will say that some of the other greats had a more dominant first 4 fights. Sure, all I'm saying is that it can definitely be argued that Khamzat's first 4 fights were one of the most dominant. So for a man starting his first 4 fights like that, to go on to have the roller coaster of a career he's had up until now, it's peculiar to say the least. Now, when it comes to the Kamaru Usman fight we had recently, there were some different thoughts and opinions going into the fight, different predictions people had, but I'd say that the consensus, the mainstream consensus that was usually spouted by people was along the lines of, if Khamzat's as good as we think he is and the hype is justified, he should be able to beat Kamaru pretty easily, considering how short of a notice this fight is for Kamaru. Now, what happened instead was a much closer fight than people thought. To keep it simple, when I watched it live, I thought it was a draw. Upon rewatch, I would say that obviously the swing round is round 2, and you could give the edge to Khamzat in that round. But regardless, even if you think that Khamzat edged it, or if it was a draw, or whatever it was, Khamzat did not look or dominate like some people were expecting him to. Granted, he hurt his hand like he said, so we will factor that in, but let me break this down just a little bit. Round 1, Khamzat obviously dominates and looks terrifying. I mean, he did dominate Usman very thoroughly, in a way that most people don't dominate Usman in the grappling. So we know Khamzat's grappling, especially when he's not tired, is very, very scary. But I just want to point this out, okay? Look at the end of round 1 when Khamzat's sitting in his corner. Look how tired he looks. Keep in mind, okay? Khamzat is moving up a weight class here. He's not cutting large amounts of weight anymore, and he had a full training camp, and he looked very tired here. Yes, there was a lot of grappling in the first round, and yes, he did go at a very high pace, but I was a little bit surprised by how tired he was. Honestly, it's starting to give me flashbacks as to when some fans bestowed upon Conor McGregor the title of one round Conor. I really am wondering, is this where Khamzat's gonna be as a middleweight? Like super dangerous in round 1, and then after that he just fades? Round 2 is one of those rounds that's really, really close. Both didn't throw much at all. Round 3 is Kamaru Usman's round. I know Khamzat said he hurt his hand, but just look at some of these exchanges they were having. These really make me feel that had this fight been 5 rounds, I really have to question how hard Khamzat could go. It just feels like he barely got to the finish line in this fight. And honestly, I have always stated this, had he fought Kamaru instead of Gilbert Burns back at UFC 273, I'm pretty confident Kamaru would have won. What is my ultimate point here, and why am I just worried, and why do I see a stall? Just look at some of these long layoffs he's been happening. This last year was a complete waste of time. And what did he do before that? He fought Kevin Holland and was supposed to fight Nate Diaz. Something that does not move his career in any relevant direction. Okay? He had a war with Gilbert Burns before that, which was a tough fight for him. He just fought Kamaru on short notice and just got by. And in that fight, he looked so damn tired. When I look at his future now, the guy we thought once looked unbeatable is starting to look a lot more human, let's be honest. Do I think he can beat Sean Strickland? Well, going based off of this past performance he just had against Kamaru, if he can submit Sean in the first 1 or 2 rounds, then yeah, I definitely think he can beat him. But what I can also see is if he doesn't do that, I have a feeling he's going to get his head boxed off. I still do think Khamzat can win a championship, but now I'm a lot more conservative in this position, in the sense that I believe it's more so matchup dependent. You either win a title early enough in your career to solidify your championship run, or you live long enough to watch the stall and eventually fall.